If you can stop talking for 10 seconds, that would be fantastic. You want to hit the start timer on there? You want to hit? You want to start podcasting, genius?
Hey, Biff, when does Labor Day happen?
The number you have dialed is not in service at this time. Please try another number and try again.
About 9 months.
I don't know. Labor Day what?
Labor Day comes 9 months after Father's Day. You see, because sometimes people have sex on Father's. Anyways, here's a great one. You're going to love this. You're absolutely going to love this. Hey, Biff, why did the ancient Egyptians have trouble recruiting workers?
Why do ancient Egyptians have trouble recruiting workers, Jacques?
It was a pyramid scheme. Don't laugh.
I was still laughing at what Biff said about the number you reached is not in service. God, that was funny.
It was funny. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Carnival Personnel. I'm Jacques.
This is Biff.
Hey, Joe.
So I'm back in my humble abode. Joe is over to record this episode. Got back from LA last week. Management is out of town, which means another nerd fest of watching. We're gonna really try to find the Jerry Lewis, The Day the Clown Cried.
Oh my God, yes, yeah.
Because you're familiar with that movie, right, Biff?
No.
Okay. You don't know about the famous Jerry Lewis movie where he played a clown that was, I don't know if it was at Auschwitz or
It was a concentration camp, or World War II Jewish concentration camp.
And the clown's job was to, coax the children into the gas chambers.
Oh, so kind of one of those feel-good movies.
Well, here's the thing. For years, it's been like every copy was destroyed. It was his production. Like
is this like the producers attempt at the producers gone bad or something like that, or
or gone right? No, but he seriously
whatever. Okay,
but he bought the rights to the movie. They shot the movie. It was like shot in France, and I guess
it was.
Even he thought it was so horrible. Like, everything was destroyed. The dailies, the X, the Y, the C's. But, we all know a copy survived, and it's been rumored forever. What I just found out is it's a real book. It was based on a true story. But Jerry Lewis, trying to be a serious actor, couldn't help but be Jerry Lewis. And I guess there's a script floating around somewhere with his notes in the margin where it's freezing. Like the clown wakes up and it's really cold and he goes to pee and you hear ice cubes hitting the porcelain in the urinal type thing. Like, he couldn't not do bits. Like, Jerry Lewis wanted to do a serious thing, this dramatic thing, and he couldn't stop doing Jerry Lewis.
I have to correct you on one thing. Jerry Lewis, he didn't just throw money away. That film still exists. He just put it in a vault. So it's not destroyed. The film actually is in a vault. And I think, from what I understand, I believe that there's a stipulation that he agreed to have it shown publicly in the year like 20 something, like close by, like 2030 or 20 something in the 2020s.
So the countdown is on.
Yes, like the countdown is literally should be a billboard with a countdown clock.
Oh, good Lord.
We're 3 years away from the Jerry Lewis Holocaust movie. But no, though it's very much intact somewhere.
My God.
Okay. And hey, we got the Hitler stuff out of the way right up front.
I know it's intact because Harry Shearer has seen the Day the Clown Cried.
This is how I found out about it. For years, before Patton Oswalt was a national known name, I mean, he was an actor, he was a working actor, he was a touring comic, but he had a group there once a week they would get together, almost like a Mystery Science Theater, and do a live table read of the script. Include, and I think maybe Harry Shearer was like the one who would like be the narrator and like read the handwritten notes in the margin that they would project onto us. And I guess they did this for years before they got a cease and desist letter, but it was like a weekly thing in the mid 90s in LA and a theater for like 50 to 100 people. And it was sold out every week. But that, hopefully coming to a theater too. But before
I'm just amazed that like they actually made the film before they realized, this is a bad idea.
Hey, you can't hit if you don't swing, right? Am I right?
Well, I guess it was a best-selling book that he bought the rights to. So,
okay.
Well, let's turn to another tragedy that I think has resolved. How is your finger, Biff?
My finger's fine. You want to see it?
Hey.
So Biff every year, hosts a F&H Friday night hockey.
It's mostly in Arizona, the team tournament party.
Slash.
To be honest, the way it works is that it really is because I bill it as the Phoenix, annual Phoenix hockey tournament barbecue. But I invite, because if I make it into an F&H party, then it's like, there's like, let's be honest, there are people who I may not necessarily want, to have there. So,
right.
So F&H.
So it's really
John
Phoenix,
Taylor.
Phoenix hockey team and friends party. And not all the friends are F&H, right? I mean,
the no homer.
Woody is not an F&H guy.
But, and Biff, honestly, the spread he puts out, people talk about weeks before and months after. And he does. He has a grill. He has a smoker. He has like 6 burners going on a 4-burner stove. All the trimmings. It is awesome. But as I got there, he had just recently, John Belushi, Samurai Deli, Buck Henry incident where he nearly sliced off his finger.
Yeah, I inadvertently put my ring finger against the mandolin blade, which was not a good idea. So yeah,
ouch.
But luckily there was a doctor on call.
This is true. Having a doctor there helped a lot. And there was a lot of essentially remedial injury, repair that she did that was so much better than what I tried to do. And so it was. So that helped out immensely. Yeah,
help me out because was her recommendation to go to the hospital and get it sewn up?
No, she actually did. She said, "Oh, you know what? It's not really in that crucial area, so maybe we could let's just try to stop the bleeding and whatever." So.
Now, do you think that was some medical advice, or did she just want the food to continue to flow?
No, because the stuff that she wanted to eat was already done. So, for all she cared, I could leave at that point.
Okay, all right.
Because she wasn't waiting. She wasn't going to eat the red meat, so she didn't care about any of that stuff. So,
well, it was a fantastic party again. It was a delightful conversations. It was great to see.
Yeah.
The people who live with you. It was great to see them. It was great to see your son chastise you. That's the highlight for me.
Yeah.
Well, because
I mean, it's kind of a continued theme of you shouldn't be doing that when you're like injured like that, and so it's usually in regards to me playing hockey when I should be playing hockey, but this time around, you should be getting that fixed. So,
well, I told your son. I remember we're in Vancouver. We're on the houseboat, 2010 Olympics. He wasn't doing his homework. You chastise him. And now how the hunter has become the hunter.
That table
nice.
Turned a long time ago.
But it was. He cracks me up. He was great with my kid. Watched a little MMA with him. So the party was great. Thank you again. Joe wasn't invited.
I didn't want to be there.
Well, I didn't want him to feel obligated to fly all across the country to,
And Biff thought I was Jewish. That's what I get it. I understand.
Well, Woody was there and Al was there, so Biff's like, we made our quota.
Yeah, that's enough. It's enough already.
You know, we're good.
Are those like Trump rules? Like if I have a certain number of people, like I'm not racist.
You didn't have a Portuguese there. You could have, maybe.
But moving on. Got to cross Connecticut off my list of states I've done something in. I did a show last night in Hartford. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. But previous podcast guests, Angelica Scanora and Tyler Morrison, have both invited me to come up and do shows in Toronto, which I'm going to try to coordinate with other podcast guest Maria Dennis to make sure she's in town, because it would be absolutely great to see her while I'm in town.
Do you need a visa to do that?
No. Well, yes.
A MasterCard?
I don't know if they take Dodgers Club in Canada anymore, but yes.
It must be relatively easy to get, working visas in Canada.
But that's the thing. I wouldn't say, oh, I'm coming here to do a paid comedy gig.
Well, they're not. If they're not paying you, don't need a visa, right?
But even if they are, I wouldn't say that, because by paid, those slots are like $50 to $75. So
yeah, right.
That would be like my majors in college, undeclared.
Oh man!
So what you're saying is that you're going to just cross that border, and then you're going to be an undocumented immigrant working, without recording the pay to the government, is what you're saying,
and taking a Canadian job, 100%.
Right? Yeah,
it's about time. It's about time.
I'm just asking the question.
Make Canada America again is what I'm saying.
Make Canada America.
So yeah, I don't know what you have on the run, if this falls in the rundown, but you're not the only one who's been traveling the past couple of weeks.
Oh, where did you go, Biff?
Yeah, but he's kidding. He means me.
What? You left the state of Massachusetts.
Joe, yes. The Joe that's talking right now up and fucking left Massachusetts for 3 whole days. That's right.
Ooh.
I don't give a shit anymore. All right? I went across 2 state lines.
Did you have a visa?
No, I had my MasterCard. You know what? It's still funny. It's still funny the second time. My wife.
Wait till the third. Wait till the
comedy happens in 3s.
Yeah.
My wife and I to celebrate our anniversary and our birth.
Anniversary?
It's a belated anniversary, right? But it's more like our birthday. It's more of my birthday.
Okay.
We went down to New York City.
City.
For either 3 days, 2 nights. To see a lot of razzmatazz. That's right. Broadway shows. My wife is a big theater person. She works in theater. She teaches theater. She lives for theater. And yes, we went and saw 3 Broadway musicals.
Wow. That's a lot.
We first saw, we stayed in the Times Square area. Nice, decent 3-star hotel, but fine. It was actually a very pleasant experience, very friendly staff. It's the place called The Element by Weston in Times Square. Anyways,
okay.
Paid advertisement. It is not a paid advertisement. Anyway, so the first day, we saw 2 shows. We saw Hadestown. No, the first night we saw 1 show. I'm sorry. Tuesday night we saw a show called Hadestown, and that is it's like a Tony Award winning musical. I think it's been running for a couple of years. The plot is it's basically like this train depot / bar, whatever, in like a New Orleans area place. That it's like the go between like heaven and not heaven and hell, but like earth and it's between earth and hell.
Okay.
And it's based on Greek mythology, the story of Orpheus and Euripides. And I didn't know anything about it. They give you a little primer in the playbill. It's like, hey, by the way, stupid, this is the Greek mythology. We know you're dumb. This is what it's based on.
It's kind of like the Olympics opening ceremony thing. Like things have to be explained. Right?
Yes, right. Big tutorial, how to. But it was a wonderful musical. The gentleman playing Hades. First of all, I don't know if you know who Stephanie Mills is, but she's like a Broadway,
She used to be a singer.
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
She used to be a pop singer.
I think she was she was in The Wiz. I think she was on Broadway in The Wiz. Stephanie
The
Mills.
Broadway version of The Wiz. Okay.
Yeah, she was in the original cast of The Wiz as Dorothy or something. She's legendary.
I seem to remember her having a hit pop song.
She probably did, and I'm not familiar with it. But she was there, and she was the narrator. She played I forget. I'm sorry, I forget the name. It'll come to me when I'm listening to this back in a couple of days. But there was a gentleman there who played Hades. I guess he wasn't the original cast member, but the original cast member was like a smaller version, like a wiry actor. But this guy was almost like James Earl Jones, and James Earl Jones and Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Yeah.
The late James Avery, like him, just kind of that same personality, very deep voiced, super deep voiced. But he could sing, and he was great, and it was moving. It was super well done, obviously. The set, it rotated in multiple circles. It was great. It was a wonderful experience. So that was Hadestown. And then Wednesday afternoon, we saw a musical called Suffs. It's about the suffragettes. They don't like to be called the suffragettes. That was actually a term made up by the press to demean the movement.
Right. They were originally Benny and the Jets, if I'm not mistaken.
Benny and the suffragettes. You know what? So close. So close. Anyways, you know what? You'll put a pot of coffee on and we'll, work it out. They're actually preferred to be called suffragists, but it's about the women's right to vote movement from 1913 to, looking at my watch today. It's not just about, it's mostly about the women's the women's movement to get the right to vote, and how Woodrow Wilson was a real piece of shit. And how
he's on a currency.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. And that was kind of, I think that was also one of his excuses for not wanting to focus on the women's rights to vote movement, because they were focusing on changes in the treasury. Anyways.
Okay.
And then of course World War I broke out, Right. So, but that was a moving and funny musical. Well,
nothing funnier than women trying to get rights. Am I right? Hey, up top. High five. Here we go.
Joe Lorenko has left the podcast. So anyway, that was a fun time. And then finally, the piece de resistance, the main reason why I agreed to, leave the humble confines of my plex, my plex in Massachusetts, was to see Back to the Future, the musical.
Ooh.
Yes, big old Back to the Future nerd fan here. And I did not like the music. I'll get it right out of the way. I knew going in that it was going to be a corny, cheesy, campy, mediocre musical. I got that. I knew this was mainly nostalgia bait, fan service. That was fine. And so I suffered through the mediocre, unmemorable first draft songs, and especially at the beginning of the show, the first act. I don't know. Some of the numbers just, they were fine. It's just nothing that you would hum as you were leaving, except for the movie music, the theme, the power of love, Huey Lewis is Back in Time, the stuff that the Earth Angel, Johnny Be Good, all the pop hits that were in the movie, they reprise for the musical. But the main star of the musical is the DeLorean. This thing, the way they made this thing look like it would move or could get up to 88 miles per hour was amazing. Right. They had projection screen in the back, and they also had a projection scrim in the front. So they would project,
fancy special effects.
Exactly. Yeah, there would be virtual hill valley behind them to simulate the movement, and the actual car did rotate 360 degrees, and the thing that it did in the back at the end of the first movie, it does at the end of this musical, which is pretty great. It was a pretty cool effect. So, but yeah, I mean, overall, I give the music a 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10. The original music, I'll say.
Right.
But the guy who plays Doc plays him very broad, very like high pitched and talking like this, and kind of a grating voice. I don't know if you know who Rick and Morty are. Biff.
Oh yeah.
So Rick, it's very Rick and Morty, which of course is a parody originally of Doc and Marty. So,
so it's kind of Inception.
Yeah, exactly right. It's the snake eating its own tail.
Yeah.
But yeah, so their voices kind of grate on you after a while, and then you kind of get used to it. But the way that they interplay with each other, it seems improvisational, like at some times, which is fun, And they add jokes to the movie that were kind of making fun of the movie, and also just modernizing the jokes. There's a lot of reinvention of portions of the movie to fit a movie musical, and also to remove some problematic stuff from the original movie.
Problematic stuff.
Well, the Libyans do not make an appearance. I'll spoil that. There are no Libyans terrorists. That
Portuguese?
Yes,
Okay.
that's right. You know it. You nailed it. You son of a bitch, you.
Portuguese.
If there was a Portuguese CLU, I would join it and write a strongly worded letter
They
to
were
this
just too lazy
podcast.
to start it. See, I'm just gonna...
I don't like you. You're not a very good person. But anyway, yeah. But I enjoyed it. It was. I would go see it again, only because where we were sitting was a little off center, and I couldn't see the projection. So like when the lightning struck the clock tower, like I couldn't see it because it was like off to my left. And so there was some things that I missed. So it is coming to Boston in July.
Was it at like the old garden and you were behind a pole? So you couldn't see?
There's just a lot of, there were things, there's a lot of crazy crap on the walls.
Was there a woman with a big hat?
Are you just going to make jokes all night? I'm trying to have a serious discussion about a musical, about a corny 80s movie.
Yeah.
Here I am.
Yes, and here you are just making light of the whole situation. And of course, yes, I did spend a lot of money on crazy, stupid crap that I don't need. But hey, that's wacky old Joe. At it again. Do I need to save money for a house? No, because I can't afford one anyway. Good night, everybody.
Well, speaking of spending crazy money on whatever stuff, I think I saw that LA Comic-Con has like maybe 4 or 5 of the cast members coming to do photo appearances and stuff like that. I know that like Michael J. Fox, Leah Thompson, and Christopher Lloyd are 3 of them, and I think there's a couple more.
Probably Tom
1 or 2 more.
Wilson, who played Biff.
Tom Wilson probably is one of them.
Have you seen? And I'm going to sidebar for a sec. He does stand-up comedy, and
he's actually funny,
and talking engagements.
Yeah.
Have you seen his song about being Biff? He has,
No.
and I will post a link. He truly has this song about being asked if he's Biff from Back to the Future.
I have seen that.
It's like
I have seen
it's
that.
all the Tom Wilson questions in one acoustic
all the
guitar
Tom
song.
Wilson questions. Yeah. No, that I have seen that. That is terrific.
Yeah. So Back to the Future, the musical. I give it a marginal thumbs up, only because the second act really does save the first act. The spectacle is the reason you go to see this corny thing. It's those of us listening in Boston, which is me, will probably go see it in July. So our friend Steve from Formal Edition will also be joining me, I'm sure.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So Joe left the state. When's the last time you? No, you went to Connecticut the week before for RetroCon.
Yeah, we can get into that a little later.
Okay, yeah, we'll get into that.
We'll wait a little later.
So, so getting back to last week's episode, first of all, let's just start at the beginning. The editing was fantastic. You did a great job. It was about a 9-hour Zoom call that you managed to get down to the best hour and 40 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah, we're talking about the Formal Edition reunion 30th anniversary sideshow.
and I'm quite sure you hung on every word and loved the episode, Biff. But it was fantastic, like talking to Joe and the other two guys who started the whole history, going over the skits. It's funny because I posted one of the skits, or I posted part of a skit on TikTok, and I think it's because Joe's doing this parody skit of Rocky called Jacques, and he's bench pressing 10 pounds, and literally the bar falls off the holder and smacks him in the face. It's not a gag. It wasn't intentional, obviously. Hilarious, 100%. And I think maybe because they're like, oh, it got banned and you got one strike because like dangerous stunts. Ooh. Or I took a screen grab of what it is and I'm going to post it. And I appealed, and it's like part of the appeal process. Is it on other platforms? And I'm like, it's on 4 other platforms. It's and the guy survived. This was 30 years ago that thing happened. Can he do math as well as he used to? No, but he's fine.
Well, there is, on that same vein, there's a website or a YouTube channel that I follow that's constantly getting dinged for like violations of like depicting children. And it's his home movies of himself from the 90s, getting video games. And his dad recorded like all of the Christmases and stuff and everything. He was a big gamer, and they have like all these home movies, but it's all like him as a little kid. And so, but the algorithm was like, oh, that's a kid, and that should be labeled as YouTube Kids and not, regular YouTube. And so that kind of changes the monetization and the commenting. You can't comment on YouTube Kids videos.
Oh, so
yeah. So the algorithm does ruin fun.
So the episode was great. It was great talking to those guys. It's ridiculous because, I talked to, Steve after, I talked to, Joe after, and the fact that 30 years later, and the great thing is Joe and I are still doing stuff. It's not like when I get together with Dan and we just play old songs, or you and I just talk about the other stuff. We're doing this. You're writing comedy with me. It's great that we're still doing that. The episode was fantastic. It has led to a formal edition field trip coming up. If you want to talk about that for a sec.
Again, it kind of, yeah. Hey,
well, first of all, ladies, he's taken just before he puts this next field trip out there. Calm down.
Pull the panties up.
Yeah, it's a pretty bold assumption that there are ladies listening to this podcast, but
right.
Sure, go ahead.
Right, exactly. We'll kind of, covering all the bases here. But anyways, the field trip that he's referring to is actually Back to the Future related. Surprise! And I'm wearing a Back to the Future shirt. Oh my God, I didn't realize that. I am
there you go.
A sad,
fully themed,
sad man.
Fully themed.
But the field trip involves the 4 of us, Jacques, myself, our friends Jim and Steve from Formal Edition, going to the Back to the Future Museum at the basically at the Bill Shea residence in Hubbardston, Massachusetts. Okay. We've been there. I think I talked about this before, and people have forgotten it because who cares? But it's this. He's a car collector and a Back to the Future enthusiast, and he has actual like replicas and screen used cars from the movie, and also a lot of props and stuff. He rebuilt the entire opening sequence of Back to the Future, where you see the shot of Doc's office or his garage, and all the clocks are being run at the same time, and then the TV turns on. The TV turns on, and the dog food operator runs. And anyways, it's all recreated in real time, and so that's like a nerdy little exhibit. But yes, we're all going on October 19th to the Back to the Future Museum. And by sheer coincidence, after we nailed that date down in stone, Back to the Future websites announced that Fathom Events is hosting like a 2-night thing in movie theaters where Back to the Future Part 2 will be shown in honor of its 35th anniversary, and it's going to be shown on October 19th, the date that we were planning on going to the Back to the Future Museum. So that night, Steve and I and Jacques.
Yep. You got Joe.
Did you get tickets?
Well, Joe sent me the link, and I'm like, "Where are your tickets?" And I sent it to management. And I said, "Get a bunch of tickets because I want to take the boys. I want to take Mike and Brandy and stuff who go to movies with us. Who's also a big You.
Right.
You know.
Portuguese.
Yeah, right.
Anyways, so it's Back to the Future all year round in my universe.
There you go.
And no, I did not go to the NHL museum. And then also to put a little button on my.
That's for Jacques to do when he has his Toronto gig. The Hall of Fame, Hockey Hall of Fame.
You
is in
drove
Toronto.
by the Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield on your way.
Probably, yeah. Oh, not, yeah, but there was, the NHL store in Times Square. That's what I meant to say.
Oh, NHL store in Times Square.
Not the museum. But to put a button on the New York thing, before we left Thursday morning, I did get tickets to the Paley Center for TV or whatever it is. And that's basically like it's the old museum and radio television museum of radio and television. They have like a West Wing exhibit that I wasn't really there for, but it was nice. I'd seen one episode of West Wing and we kind of breezed through that, but I was really there to watch television because they have access and archive of unavailable to the public old television clips and full shows. I watched something. I don't know if you want to. Should I hold on to this for what I'm watching maybe later? Okay. But so there's old TV stuff that I have to report on that it doesn't have anything to do with YouTube. It's stuff that's not available on YouTube. A little teaser. But that's our Back to the Future trip.
No, and I'm so excited. And so much has come out of that podcast between the four of us. It's funny. We have mentioned my cousin Jimmy, and that was his first TV appearance. And I'm going to brag a little bit. Again, my cousin Jimmy, who writes on SNL's first TV appearance was, Joe remembers the date, right? You remember the exact date?
It was in January of 95. It was on not the 5th, not the 7th. Maybe January 6th.
Okay.
January 6th.
So probably the most important January 6th in U.S. history.
I think so.
Okay. So I just got a call.
Well, okay.
Look.
Okay.
You know, this is for citizens only, Biff.
Whatever.
Was that nice?
Whatever.
Why do I have to no? So Jimmy was not going to be in L.A. while I was visiting. He had just got back from a trip to Europe, getting ready for his third season at SNL, and he got the 911 call from his agent saying, they need you back in L.A. right now. Get on the next flight to help write a Christmas special for Sabrina Carpenter, who Joe knows as the niece of
or goddaughter, I forget, of Nancy Cartwright, who does the voice of Bart Simpson.
Oh, okay.
So, I don't know. So my cousin said, hey, I'm in town. We can get together. Why don't we do brunch on Sunday? And I remind him, I have my little guy with me. He eats 3 things, none of which will be on a West Hollywood brunch menu on a Sunday. And getting him to stand in line for an hour and a half for mediocre pancakes is not going to happen. We're simpletons. Why don't we just meet at like a donut shop? So I drive down. We're sitting at a Wenchels. We got Wenchels money. And he goes, that's my boss behind me. And I turn around and there's a billboard of her. And I don't know who she is. I guess she's a big pop star. And I say, oh, it looks like AI Taylor Swift. And he started laughing. He goes, I will never not see her as AI Taylor Swift again. So he's writing the show. And I don't know how a show that he's writing on now that won't air for 4 months somehow has him going to the Emmys coming up. And he's taking his best friend, who was one of my favorite people on the planet, my niece.
He was probably nominated for Best Writing for SNL.
Maybe you think? Okay, maybe it was an SNL.
If he was nominated, if the writers of SNL are nominated, then they're all.
Well, last year he also wrote on the other 2, like on the off weeks of SNL.
Right.
You know, I worked 95 hours this week on SNL. I could sleep or I could go to my
not to
job.
knock the other 2, but I'm pretty damn sure they weren't nominated for an Emmy.
Who knows? Maybe there was a guest appearance.
Maybe
somebody did a walk.
Maybe I don't want any maybes. We've got to find that money. You know what this means?
No, come on, Joe, man.
You know what this means? It means scandal and prison. One of us is going to jail. Well, it's not going to be me. The end.
And now I have to edit that.
There you go.
Another clip coming up. Thank you. No, so I was just so happy. But my sister called me to tell me the kind of good news. But my sister also reminded me and reminded my cousin when he was 14, he basically lived at my sister's house, and he's very, very close to my sister's daughters. And he made a promise to my sister, when I'm famous and I'm going to the Emmys, I'm taking you with me.
Oh,
Wow.
okay.
Wow.
So
That's cool.
So he was on speakerphone, and my sister called, and she loves Joe. So I'm like, hey, Joe's here. And we're all talking, and she tells us a story. It's like, yeah, Sophie has to go out, and she's worried about a dress, and she's this, and she's that. And he goes, I'm worried about this promise he made. So that, I am just so happy. And again, thanks to me, Joe, Jim, and Steve in the January 6th, 1995 episode 6 of Formal Edition, he has a career today.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Welcome.
I didn't see anybody send us an invite to the Emmys, but hey,
and it's funny because one of my friends, I was talking to my friend Wayne about this, Wayne Russell and Anthony Eugenio from Open Mike Payne. I have a show coming up with them. They're the best people in comedy, and it's funny because Sidebar, I was talking to Wayne about joke stealing. I'm like, dude, it was everything I could do not to use your opening, the way he opens the show. Maybe the best cold opening coming in. Like his first 30 seconds probably has 6 laughs in it. And that's not an exaggeration. But anyways, I was telling him about, my cousin, it's a launching pad. And then it's like Joe and I did another show that launched. Margaret Smith was a nationally known touring comedian. She did an episode of our show because her agent was putting her up for stuff, and all her tape is stand-up stuff. Great stand-up stuff all over the world, but didn't have any, acting experience. She did our show, which led to her, I think she was the librarian on That 80s Show.
Was it a librarian or they all worked in a record store?
That's what it was. She owned the record store that they worked in. It was like picked up for 12. I think 5 episodes ran.
Yeah, it didn't take.
But she was on the opening credits of that. And again, from our stupid comedy. And so Joe just came over now. And we talked about it. I moved to LA. I came back. Joe and I did comedy camp. We locked ourselves in a room, seriously, for days, wrote this show.
At Steve's house.
At Steve's house. Locked ourselves, invited ourselves to stay at Steve's house. Wrote for 3 or 4 days. Shot it for 3 or 4 days. And edited it for 3 or 4 days. And we were just laughing at it. We were just watching it. A couple little dated bits, a couple little things. And it's like, it's like, hey, maybe this, in the light of everything else,
maybe this word not so much,
but overall,
things that might disqualify you from a political run
or boost our career, depending on what side we're on.
I think the Adam Carolla Network would love
it.
So, yeah.
Well, there's a skit called Book Burning Theater where, and again, I'm going to post this. I don't know how Joe feels about it. I want to post some of the stuff. When we were talking Formal Edition last week, I remember so much. It was great. But there's a skit that Joe played. Biff, it's gone. Like, I mean, gone. I mean, that's what my heavy drinking days. And then I remember, like, as we're talking about the skit and me not remembering that, I'm like, I probably drove you guys home that night. Like, literally, I'm not kidding. I at least drove Joe to the train station like 10 miles away. Anyways, so getting back to all this stuff. It was all great. I want to post it, but there was a skit where it's called Book Burning Theater, where I'm sitting in front of a fireplace. It's a PBS, and I can barely speak. What word?
Not like today.
but what word could I not say?
Brighton Beach Memoirs.
And I talk about how great it is and the play X, Y, and Z. I'm like, it also makes great kindling. And I throw it into the fireplace. I just looked at Joe. I'm like, I don't remember being a Republican. Anyway, so last week of that show and watching this stuff with Joe and seeing my cousin, like it's great. It's been a really fun week. Your party in LA was great. The comedy was great. I took the little guy and I talked about to the football game. We took him to Disney, and he hasn't been to Disney since 2019. And since then, the last time he was there, we bought him this great Jedi outfit that I didn't want to buy because it was an impulse thing. He was kind of into Star Wars, but he kind of wasn't. And it was expensive, but we got our money out of it. And, but now he's all into Star Wars, like Rebels is his thing. And he remembers in 2019 me crying when I saw the Millennium Falcon. And it was great. I will tell you this much. When I saw the Millennium Falcon and ran in 2019, it was all I wanted. Everything was great. And him and his brother got to pilot it, during the ride, because 6 people sit in the cockpit and flight. The second time we did it, I got to pilot. Renette went with us, so I let Renette and her, do it. And so I wanted to sit in the Han seat, but he wanted to. So I'm like, okay, you know what? So I'm sitting in Chewie's seat, but I didn't realize the guy who sits in the Chewie seat when it comes time to jump to hyperspace is the one that pulls the levers down to make it jump into hyperspace. And I would have given.
Wait a minute. That's not how hyperspace works.
You want to try that again?
Is this kind of like the whole thing where, you have two lightsabers that are made of lasers that could cut through anything, but then slams, and when you slam into another lightsaber, it's light slamming on light? Is that kind of one of those things where,
No, this is real science.
Yeah.
That's not how hyperspace works.
There you go. No, but honestly, it was one of those times in all of our lives as I pull the lever down, as the Falcon starts to jump into hyperspace, I'm like, right now. Like, please, meteor, hit the Earth
right
now. Like, not the Earth, hit the Falcon now.
You're hoping that like the lever is also attached to like a 20,000 volt, transformer.
Look, I want my 14-year-old to grow and experience all life. Also, I'd be fine, checking out right then and there. Like to pull that lever and go to hyperspace is everything 8-year-old me could have possibly ever imagined life being.
Yeah, that is. I love those little life moments. That's the realization of a dream, like it's just happening. It's
well, I mean, honestly, Back to the Future. You go into the play, the museum. It's those moments.
I got to sit in the Necto one.
Biff, Biff, yeah. What's your moment? Give me a couple of the moments where you've touched the Stanley Cup, right?
That's true.
How was that?
That it was great, but I think it's nothing compared to like
the birth of your son.
No, well, sure, but I mean, I'm talking about the nerd stuff that we're in the pantheons of the nerdiest stuff from my thing. I mean, it's either like something like I stepped on the ice and Igor Larionov is skating in front of me. It's like I'm sharing the ice with one of the greatest players. Things like that. That was one of them, and then just certain concert moments. Right? Is
if you're standing in the crowd and the Baby Metal drummer throws a stick out and you catch it.
But okay, close, but yeah.
No, I mean, it's honestly, it's those moments that are great. And so my last week in LA, it made it really tough to leave. First of all, it was Taylor's birthday, and it was just great. I mean, I honestly, I wish somebody in this world loved me as much as I love that guy. You know what I mean? I truly, the love I have for him is great. But
I love you.
Yeah.
Not as much as you love John, but
no, that's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? And look, I'm surrounded by dogs who love me, but look, they can't. But the last week there, one of my heroes, podcast guest Tony V was in town. Mm-hmm. And he was doing a private show with Bobcat Goldthwait, his best friend, and 60-person theater with his son. I haven't talked about this yet. No. And so it was great because Bobcat got married like a month or two earlier, and private thing, go away. And it was just his friends and family. Mm-hmm. And Tony, who's his best friend, flew in. And that was great. And it was also great that my friend Brandon.
Let's go.
Brandon has a great job, executive over Warner Brothers, but he's one of these guys during the pandemic bought a house 4 hours away because Warner Brothers said, you can work remotely forever. This is fine. And then the new owners came in and said, you got to be here 3 days a week. So, but he was in town. It was great to take him, and he gets to meet Tony, and it's like somebody who, as Joe knows, fucking sweetheart.
Yeah. He's a great guy.
Yeah. And then to see the show Bobcat in a tiny room. Thursday, another guest, Dante the comic, who's been nothing short of an amazing mentor. I had talked with him a couple of weeks before saying, hey, there's people I want you to meet. I'm going to set up lunches. And he's like, no, you're going to set up a dinner party at my house and just bring everybody here and I'll cook. And it's great. And I did. And so I bring our friend Ronick, podcast guest. Yep. I bring Jenna, podcast guest. And, the lady, Atasha, who put together the Big Three tour with me. And it was one of those, they know.
Future podcast
guest. No, I will. I'm going to book her to just talk about that Big Three tour, which was 10 days of awesome. And so we, but they all know each other's. There's 1 degree of separation because they've all worked. He worked on this BET show that she ended up becoming an executive BET and working with the same. But here's the best part. He's had an autobiography he's trying to get finished and fixed, and Jenna's book comes out next month. She's been a ghostwriter for 20-some years. She's ghostwritten tons of books. She's put out a few of her own books. She was embedded with Depeche Mode a few years ago and wrote about the tour. And she's putting out a book because for 20 years, people are asking, how do I publish a book? How does this world work? And so to save time and people asking her questions, but it was nice that basically she's going to help him with his book.
Oh, great.
You know, and it's funny because like somebody asked us like, oh, you put that together. It's like, you know, what do you get for something like that? It's like, there's no book. You know, if it's a bestseller, I'm quite sure Dante will take me out to dinner, but it's like, I got to introduce 2 people who are absolutely great, who I've worked with, who I have nothing but respect for, who he has a need, she has a service. It's like, you know, that's it, you know, and Ronick was there and they talked about like developing stuff. Dude, it was just great. And then the second to last day I'm there is when my big meeting with Bill Fay and the other guy, Dearman, who was mentioned in Catherine's book, The Person, because this is how tiny the world is. We have somebody on who writes a book
college
about
radio.
college radio thing, and she mentions Dear McQuinn by name and his career, and it's like he manages Broadway people. And when Bill calls and says, hey, I'm going to do this thing, and I'm like, great, I want to end. I offer nothing. I bring nothing to the table. Except I know a couple people. So here, why don't we set up these meetings? So it was great. You know, Bill has his old man 80s rock cover band. They played this cool show. Dearman and I got there early. We talked for a couple hours.
Yeah.
Dearman's son, by the way, Sean Quinn, and he spells it correctly, Sean Quinn. Go ahead and look that kid up. He is Mr. America cyclist. He's the #1 cyclist. The Tour de USA, whatever the Tour de USA is, whatever the biggest thing is, he won it this year. And there was a whole film crew documenting the race. But every team car had a camera in it, and there's a really nice NBC Sports thing of him and his wife, Dearman and his wife,
nice.
and it came down. It was the last 100 yards. Like literally the thing came down to the last, which means, so he lives in Europe, like he's on a cyclist team, but for the year, for the next 365 days, he wears the red, white, and blue, representing, you know, internationally, like Team USA.
Right. He's like the ambassador.
Oh,
right.
Yeah. And anyway, so Quinn came and that was one of the things. And then our last day there, Disney was not on the plate, and our friend Renetsky, podcast guest, says, hey, Disney has a special today, $104. We're going to Disney. And I'm like, oh, it's already 8. I'm thinking of all the reasons we're not going as I'm packing to go. And we got home at midnight, 1 a.m. ish, and the Uber picked us up at 4.
To take you to the airport.
To take us to the airport. Like, honestly, the little guy, I carried him onto the plane. I carried him off the plane. Right.
Did you put him in the overhead bin to save on the?
Oh, dude, I had more legroom that way.
Oh yeah, I know. Seriously.
You know.
Oh, honest to God. You know what? All I'm gathering from all this name dropping.
Yes.
What I'm gathering is that Jimmy Fowley is the only person you know that hasn't been on our podcast yet.
You know what? And I actually, when I was at brunch, you know, It was West Hollywood. It was 11. I don't care if it was a Winchell's. I'm saying it was brunch. And I said to them, like, okay, so Bill Fay can come on, and you can, but
Bill Fay's retired from show business.
You know, the honesty thing, because when he first got SNL, and I posted, you know, Jimmy Fowley's going to save SNL.
Take that down.
He's like, dude, can you please take it? And it's funny because he listens to the Fly on the Wall and other SNL themed podcasts, and he's like, dude, it's the same environment. He feels pretty good because he knows he's picked up this year. He also knows it's the 50th, because usually the second or third year is when the actors who are writers start to get into skits. He knows that this is the 50th year, and everybody who's ever been a cast member is coming back. Every celebrity who's ever played, Clinton or Hillary or Trump or name political person here, Matt Damon will come back and do Brett Kavanaugh. You know what I mean? Every name who's ever been on the show.
I can expect to see the return of Sean Connery on Jeopardy because
Oh, please! I don't know. I think we're gonna let him.
You need a good slap in the mouth there, Biff.
That's not what your mother said last night.
Right? Yeah.
But maybe we shouldn't be even talking about Jimmy and all of his behind the scenes things because
true,
maybe God forbid somebody of note listens to this podcast that could negatively affect his career going forward. Hey, who's Jimmy Fowley? Jimmy Hooley? I don't know. I don't know. I never heard that guy in my life. And
we're just going to forget the whole January 6th thing.
Yes.
The January 6th, 1984 thing is what.
So maybe the thing to do is find another writer's name and just start talking about him as if he was Jimmy.
Oh, no, we should refer to him as Buck Henry.
Because that's who he played on. That's who he played on the show.
On our show, he gave out his name as Buck Henry, and we're like,
there you go.
Who's Buck Henry?
The joke was he was filling in for the guy Steve, and Joe and Jim didn't realize that it wasn't Steve.
Right. We mistook an 8-year-old that had the trouble with the word trivia as one of our co-hosts.
And then the real Steve walks in, and they're like, "Who are you?"
Yes, it was like the two Spider-Men pointing at each other.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
So, okay. But here's the thing, and management really gets this, that if I wasn't jamming with Dan 5 times a year, if Joe didn't start this podcast, 7 years ago,
I've apologized for that on a number of occasions. Okay.
If comedy wasn't going as well as it was, I mean, I have a very, very, very limited skill set. My skill set is applicable in a 10-block radius of 30 Rock in New York and a 10-mile radius of Los Angeles. Otherwise, I'm literally the most useless human being there is.
You have a particular set of skills, I would say.
But that's the thing. I'm sitting, and it was funny because I had said, well, like Wayne is doing a show and he needed bios from the comics on the show, and I had trouble writing it. Dave Radigan wrote my opening line, which was great, and I mentioned some of the comics I work with because, the big comic I work with, Mike Kotrova, says, look, you're nobody. When you write your comedy bio, you've opened for these people, put these people's name in. I talked to Wayne. It's like, I feel like a name dropping douchebag, but it's the same thing. When I was hanging out with Brandon, I'm like, when I talk about being here and what I do, it's to anybody else outside of this tiny, incredibly tiny bubble, I sound like that guy. So I'm at Spielberg's house and Tom Hanks comes over and he's dropping names left and right. So I looked at Pacino. I said, "Can you get a load of this guy?" And he says, "Oh my God, he was pulling the same shit last week over at you." But that's the thing. It's like, that's what I do. I hang out with those people. I put those kind of deals together. And then I come home and I'm the free, unpaid, unthanked 2-star Uber driver for my sons and their friends, which is great.
But you could, so it's, your bio is going to look like, bi-coastal comic, with, appearing in shows with blah, blah, blah. Is that how it's going to work?
So I've talked to management about this. First of all, I've told Taylor this. His firm has to stop posting all of their enormous wins because he's losing the ability to say he can't buy me a 2-bedroom condo anywhere I want him to in LA. The oldest guy, he wants to go back to LA next year.
Did you ever consider the possibility that, he's willing to buy you a house? It just needs to be, as far away as possible from LA?
Look, about 40,
I'm just asking the question.
Have
you ever considered that possibility?
Yes. But
like you say, maybe you could buy me a house in Australia, and then you say, "Oh yeah, sure."
You know what? But he look, he's smart. He's one of the smartest people to know. He's not that fucking smart because about 5-6 years ago, I started sending him links to houses in Manhattan Beach, and they were all like $2-3 million houses. And I looked at one of the old emails. I'm like, dude, you can swing this, And I looked at one of the old emails recently, and one of the houses is now 11. I'm like, dude, like I was willing to let you buy me a house and live there and let you pay for the upkeep, but I was willing to live there for you, and you could have done this. So, like, how smart is he?
Right?
How fucking smart is he? No, but that's the thing. It's like I love doing the comedy. I drove 5 hours round trip to a show with Mike Kotrobis yesterday just talking about how comedy works and talking about the math of it. Those are the car rides that I've taken with like Jimmy Q, where it's like, this guy's been doing it for 30 years and we're having an in the weeds joke structure. And also, okay, these are the people I hate and this is why, you know, but no, all kidding aside, it's great. I have a great life, but I was there, especially that last week, taking him to Mario Land for the second time and
Super Nintendo World at Universal. Thank you.
And I did. I haven't posted it yet, but I will be posting it. We went to, and he knows why I'm doing it, and he hates it, but he did it anyways. I took him to the Getty Center, and outside there's this modern art stuff, and there's a trash can. And I had him take the Biff, Joe, Sarah, Infinity, trash can worship, photo.
Yes.
At the Getty Center.
Yeah. You know, all hail. And you know what? I'm a big fan of keeping America clean. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But and that's just for the four of us. I think now you have five of us, including four of us, including Sarah.
Yeah.
So
by the way, irony about trash cans and keeping it clean, you can't find trash cans anywhere in like cities of Tokyo. And
well, that's why on the podcast when we posted the photo of her coming back from her trip and she was excited to see a trash can at Logan.
And by the way, all I could think about while walking the streets, like walking down like 8th Avenue in New York, is like, wow, Toronto must be like pristine. Like I was trying to like envision like, could there just be like a national douching day of the fucking sidewalks in New York? Just like one kind of like, during the pandemic. Maybe they did. Maybe they did. Yeah.
But then Tuesday rolled around.
Yeah.
And it's now the 81 billion people who walk down that street.
Yeah.
I think it's the rats, I think, also contribute.
I didn't see one rat. I was out
really
daytime and nighttime. We got like 10,000 steps a day.
Did you go to Central Park?
No, we didn't make it up to Central Park. We only made it up to like 50th. But it was mostly like the Times Square area, the theater district.
Yeah, it is fascinating to watch rats going in and out of the various trash cans in Central Park. It's like, okay, that's a thing.
But if you think about it, it's like if New York spends all the money they can to keep it clean, and 1% of 1% of people are like, yeah, fuck this, I'm just going to throw this wrapper here.
Yeah, it's all for naught.
Right, exactly. You could only do some. Hey, it's a sidebar about steps. Renetsky, she wears the Apple Watch and she tracks things on her phone. You guys want to guess how many steps we did at Disney? We were just at Disney, not across the park at California Adventure, just at Disney. We didn't get there early.
One day.
One day. We got there at noon.
Combined
to 10.
Combined
no, just how many steps she took.
Oh, how many steps she took?
That we were with her side by side.
19,400.
I'm going to say 30,000 steps.
44,000 steps.
I win.
Wow.
Price is Right rules.
Wow.
And it's true because I remember the last time management and I were there, again, 2019, we did both parks. We were there the second open. We were there from like 7:30 in the morning to midnight. And it was something like 12 and a half miles that we had walked. And management and I joke about this. There's been times when I've got to Disney, we get there early, and I park in a space, and then like 10 spaces away, she sees a car space open. She goes, oh, you can pull down there. It's like, we're going to walk 12 miles.
Yeah.
And you want me to put the stroller back in the car and pull, that's just over. But no, it was all great. But it does. It's like, okay, I don't want to just, and the beach. We spent 2 days at the beach, the little guy. You know how much it costs to go to the beach? Nothing. And I couldn't get him out of the water. Like he literally loved being in the ocean. It's just a different feel and a vibe. I wanted to sign him up for a surf class, but he wouldn't take it. But I'm like, dude, look at you. Look at your body and your hair. Like you should legally be obligated to get on a surfboard.
Well, then don't go to Hawaii because that ruins your beach experience. Like, my family will not go to beaches in LA because, we went to the beaches in Hawaii. This is garbage.
No, Biff, have you been to beaches here?
Yeah.
So when I got to LA,
it's a relative thing. It definitely is a relative thing. Yeah.
And when people are like, oh, let's go to the beach, I'm like, oh, what flight are we on?
Yeah.
Well, you're the same. You're the same with amusement parks. You're a big amusement park snob. It's just like Canopy Lake Park.
Right.
I please, I wipe my ass with the Canopy Lake Park.
No, I'm like that. Look, I'm a douchebag, and I get it. I'm like that with hockey. It's like 2014 to 2016. I was down to 180, 175, 180, playing in the Qatari League on Team Canada. And I come back here. It's like, I tried. It's like, I can't. There's too many old me's, guys who take it too seriously. When I was like 30, Biff played with me when I was 30.
Yeah.
You're like, dude, what a douche. Like,
you want to know how much of a douche he was? So we played in the same in-house league, and I played for Caltech. Jacques played for his own team. And in the championship game, I played in one of the best games I've ever played ever. But we won that game, shockingly. Next Friday night, the dude that wouldn't even talk to me.
Okay, we've talked about this on podcast before. We played Biff's team 4 times in that season, never winning by less than 5 goals. Yeah. We play in the championship game. And I will tell you, I've been playing with Biff from 96, 97. I cannot tell you how many. Let's average it out. Probably 40 games a year for 20 years. With me, against me, we've been through it all. The road trips, somebody dying in front of us. I've literally played with and against him. He has never played better. Like even the refs, and I think we outshot them. And I'm not kidding. I think we outshot them something like 72-12. And our goalie played great, but they scored like 2 goals. 2 or 3 goals, and we said to Biff he should have sold the fucking equipment. Yeah. Never got on the ice again. Absolutely have never, ever played. That's the only fuck up you made. You should have just cocked your fucking trophy, gone home, wake up the kid and go over it. Then I made this. No, wake up. Then I made this save on dude. It was, but I wasn't going to talk to him for 2 weeks. 2 weeks I could. And he was the best Japanese goalie on the ice that day.
That's right. We actually had
Japanese Canadian goalie.
Well, he was the best Japanese goalie on the ice who didn't give me 14 stitches in the chin. My own goalie accidentally pitched forked me, and I think that was the game. But anyways, but that's the thing. It's like when I played that, if I could get into a time machine, and I'm going back, and it's 98 F&H, where. You know what I mean? I'm trying to think the worst person on first line would be the best person on first line now.
Right.
Type thing. But it's also just I don't want to get crushed. Anyways, I'm a snob when it comes to music.
A lot of things.
A lot of things. Friends. Yep. Very picky. Picky. It's like I got Biff. I got Joe. I got Dan, I got John, I got Ulster, Scotty. Yep, good. Okay. Don't need to meet any new people because they're going to suck, except Wayne and Anthony. I mean, those guys are great. But okay, let's get back to before Joe talks about like what he saw at the Museum of TV. I want you to talk about what you're watching, but I do want Joe, and I don't want to, this should be a too longer podcast, talk about your purchase and what we will be watching upstairs. Or some of the stuff that you're pledged. God.
No, I think we talked about
that. But what do you think we're going to watch tonight? What are we going to dive into?
So as I lamented about last week, I made a large DVD purchase from my friend, TV on DVD. My friend Peter graciously sold me his after I offered him a high amount of money for his TV on DVD collection. I digitized some of them onto the Plex. And I kind of just wanted to stick in the late 70s, early 80s wheelhouse. So, actually, no, just mostly 70s. So I digitized the Bob Newhart show, Mary Tyler Moore show, WKRP in Cincinnati, Soap.
All the classics.
Yeah, Welcome Back, Kotter. And they're all, kind of on the Plex now. We'll probably watch a sampling of those shows.
Yep.
There's still more to come. I don't know. It's just like after a while, I kind of like stopped, digitizing all those DVDs because you have to rename them and just, it's all, whatever.
Yeah.
But, there's still more to be had. And I'm also, there's time. I'm a young man. I'm not going to, keel over and die tomorrow. I've waited this long to watch these 70s sitcoms that won countless Emmy Awards. I can wait a little longer. So, we'll probably watch, maybe we'll watch a soap. Maybe we'll watch, I'll just put it on random and see what, turn on the juice and see what chicks lose.
You're a big Newhart guy, but you're woefully behind in the Bob Newhart show.
Yes. And a little behind on the 80s Newhart as well. But yes, woefully, I didn't know much about the Bob Newhart show, but I've watched the first couple of seasons now. And, they're very funny and they hold up really well. So
Suzanne Pleshette was so good on this show.
Oh yeah, was she?
So good.
But
I mean, but she's just so good. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
Emily Hartley, very good character. I mean, Marsha Wallace, great.
Marsha Wallace also quite excellent. Yeah.
Peter Bonners was funny.
Is Marsha? Is she the one? His receptionist?
Yes.
Oh God.
Yeah, Mrs. Krabappel.
Oh
on The Simpsons.
shit.
Yeah.
Is she great? Now, what were you watching at not the TV Museum Hall of Fame, but the
Paley Center?
Yeah.
So at the Paley Center, they have, like I said, an archive of old television shows that had not been uploaded to YouTube, and they actually have like a little cheat sheet, like their best of not available on YouTube. One of which was Turned On by the Turn On show from George Schlatter, the Laugh-In guy. And I said, "Oh, I actually did recently watch this on YouTube." And she goes, "Oh yeah, because George Schlatter put it on his channel, but like not until recently was it made available." Yeah. That was a show.
Did you actually? Yes. Somebody at the museum.
No, I didn't. Actually, I knew that they knew.
Did you fix your glasses? But did you push them up and when you told
listen? It was as of publication. It was correct.
Exactly.
As of publication,
right? But that's the great thing about. That's one of the great things about YouTube is that yes, you can now. People are just uploading shit. But anyway, so what I decided to watch was what caught my eye was something by Bob Elliott and Ray Goulding. Bob and Ray, and I was like, "What is this?" And it was an experimental television show that was broadcast in 1972 only on New York Public Television between WNEW and WNET. It was a simulcast. And what it was that they had cameras set up in the same studio, one focused on Bob Elliott, one focused on Ray Goulding. Bob Elliott broadcast on NEW, Ray Goulding broadcast on NET simultaneously at the same time. So the concept was if you had two TVs.
Right. I was going to say, who had two TVs back then?
Nobody has two TVs, Jimmy.
If you had
back then.
Right. So, but there's a Back to the Future quote. Nobody has two television sets he's using. But if you had two TVs, you could push them together and they would interact with each other. And it was pretty fun to watch. And it was just them in like a black background studio. They would bounce a ball to each other. Like Ray would come over to Bob's camera and Bob would come over to Ray's camera. But the Paley Center archive only archived the individual broadcast. They didn't do a dual screen thing. So you're only getting like one half of the show. And they host like part of the half-hour experiment was that they hosted like these pre-recorded segments of, like just kind of wacky, far out experimental TV, like a sketch that took place between, the two television. It was pretty daring, I should say. And I only saw the Bob Elliott broadcast, but I did look on YouTube. They're not available. So I was like, okay, good. I'm seeing something that the public hasn't seen for the most part. And I feel really special. And then I, high-five myself apparently, but it was, so I'm hoping someday somewhere somebody steal those and
sew
put
it together, right?
Yeah. Sew it together, put it on YouTube and let the world enjoy it and Bob Elliott, by the way, is Chris Elliott's dad. He played his dad on Get a Life, but I was like, oh, this is pretty, and it's pretty funny, like it's there was like they were taking like so-called like call-in, not call-in people, but people were writing in or and Bob Elliott's like so I have one note here that says there's a Ginny Wilson from Drake, Massachusetts that says she went to school with you, Ray. And they have like a little interplay there. I found it amusing because I recognize
Well,
That's how I drink
it's
it.
funny because, and I don't mean this disparagingly, there are so many great people doing sketches out, on all the platforms. And a couple of years ago, during the pandemic, there was funding where, like, you guys remember where all the different out of work stunt people were having a fight online.
Oh, and basically in sequence kind of a
Right.
thing, right?
It looks
They
like
do this whole whatever, right?
It looks like I'm punching you, and I punch a camera, and it cuts to
somebody
Yes.
kicks into the camera, and then the person on the other side does the oh my
reaction.
God, and then,
Yes.
right, and then right,
and
yeah.
these guys did it in 1972. And again, I'm not saying like, oh, stop doing comedy because it's been done, but you know what? Everything's been done, but that's genius. Like literally, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, and it's a unique situation because back then you could do that, and now it's just like it's impossible kind of to do. Even like well, not impossible. You have Zoom and stuff, but I mean it's not.
But
It's not as special.
I wish I could see the full thing. So that we got to figure that out.
And I saw the original Paul Lind show pilot from like 1960 something. It was black and white. He's a dad. He's like a toy maker, like a bigwig at a toy company. But like he's like a father of two teenagers, a daughter and son, who are like, the son's like kind of like an aloof surfer dude, and the daughter's like a typical American teenager, and they have a live-in housekeeper. No wife. Anyway,
Weird.
yeah,
Weird.
I don't know. Hey, it was a choice.
Controversy.
But that's why the housekeeper was there.
Maybe like me with theme parks, he was just picky.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know?
Right. Exactly.
Just didn't find the right one.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, women loved him.
loved him.
Yes. But I saw that. And then I think I started watching like a Strangers with Candy pilot. It's fun. But anyway, but they actually electronically shooed me away because I think I had like a 90-minute limit because I wasn't a member. But if you become a member and you live in New York City, you can go there
all day.
Fucking sit
All
there.
day.
Yeah, like if you for like $100-something a year or $200-something a year.
Right.
Biff, it's a 2-bedroom apartment your brother has in New York. I'm just, nothing to do with what we're talking about. Just randomly, I would like to know.
It turns out that it's in Australia.
Where the house John's getting me.
What's great about the Paley Center, at least on Thursday at noon, they open at noontime. We walk in and like we're like a little 5 minutes early, and it's like run by like 3 people, and it's like we were just about ready, but sometimes we get lazy, we don't open the doors right away. So they're really laid back kind of people, but it did fill up after about an hour. Not fill up meaning like 5 other people walked into the area where you watch TV and you sit down. It's like a library setting. Like these big tables with this, a TV and a headset and stuff, and a little search engine. You basically just punch in whatever you want. I did, by the way, Jacques, look for the lost Conan O'Brien Christmas episode of Late Night with Conan O'Brien, and I couldn't find it. So
Because Peacock owns it. Those people.
I know. They did have some other late night. They did have like Tonight Show stuff. They did have They did have some Conan episodes. Like they had like a sampling. They didn't have everything, but like they had
right.
According to them, the person we talked to at the Paley Center, they have 156,000 hours of TV.
Oh goodness!
Only 61 of which have been digitized. So I think I have a job to do.
I was going to say.
Honestly, I swear to God, nothing would probably please me more than if I were independently wealthy or whatever, I could just to archive television for the rest of my life.
No, I mean the guy who's been doing that for years with the Letterman stuff, the archivist.
Oh, the Don.
Dude, that's a labor of love. I'm gonna say what I'm watching real quick. Biff, has Jujutsu and Kaizo ever crossed your path? Is that a show that you have ever?
Jujutsu Kaisen.
Okay, it's not. It's so my son's for the last the oldest one for maybe 2.5, 3 years. The youngest,
my son's watched it. He says it's okay.
Yeah, for about a year, have fallen down into the manga. Thing. By the way, again, sidebar: the great Renetsky was in Japan for 10 days while I was out there, and she cannot wait to go back. Biff, I bet you guys should get together and grab coffee. She had the best time in her life.
I would love to go to Japan.
And it was great because the first couple days there, she's asking me all these questions, and I'm like, you have Biff's number 2, right? Like the guy, she's like, oh, I want to get this train thing. Oh, should I get more yen? Oh, should I do this and then go this? And finally, I basically took her phone, dialed Biff, and I pushed the phone in her face. Yeah. And I, but anyway, so Jujutsu Kaisen, he loves it. There's a couple other shows that they've watched, and it's funny because, his brother's older and he's a couple years ahead, and he's like, oh no, you got to watch this. And so this is a funny thing. So the show is great. It's really funny. It's she came back with a bunch of mangas in Japanese for him, which is kind of just, it's just cool. I mean, he was really thrilled to, something from, like when I just gave you your Bort keychain, I mean, that was that was but it's funny because he was asking, like a lot of people have asked over the years, why does so much Japanese anime look Western? And I'm like, you know what? I don't know. I looked it up, and it's really funny. They're not drawing Westerners. Do you know what most?
No, they're not.
What are they drawing?
They're cats.
They're cats. And I found a whole rabbit hole of like different stories about it, different things, YouTube videos about it. It's like this character is based on this guy's, and it will be the character and the animator's cat. It's not because because I said it to Biff when our other.
So the irony of that is right.
Westerners look like cats.
No. The irony of it. So Japanese anime characters are cats, but the biggest Japanese, kind of cartoon cat is a human, because Hello Kitty is a girl.
Right.
That's the irony.
Which, by the way, it is great. They are opening a Hello Kitty cafe on Universal City Walk soon. But anyways, are you watching anything before we move on to sport, Biff?
I am watching the live action version of Yu Yu Hakusho, which was a big, manga series and a big anime series. But for some reason, it came up on my Netflix. I guess your dog does not approve, but yeah, I agree. I should have watched the anime first. No, I know. But this Netflix just kind of sprung this on me. So I'll watch it, and then it's actually okay. So
and what is it called? Slowly, so I can.
Yu Yu Hakusho. Yu. So look for the Yu. YU. But it's basically the premise is that it's kind of like this kind of a reincarnation paranormal battling show. So.
And it's live action.
This is the live action version.
Okay.
There is an animated version. I think Crunchyroll has the animated version. So
I will definitely check.
But it's a kind of old, but it was one of the bigger whatever one. That, and I'm waiting for the return of Kaiju number 8 on Crunchyroll.
No, okay. I will tell the boys about that. The oldest one. Do you
guys have Crunchyroll?
I think he does. Does. He just started watching. He wanted to start watching the X-Men, so he started because he loved the Deadpool X-Men thing.
Yeah.
The other.
What kind of stuff do they watch? Like what
the oldest one just started, and by the time I got back, is on season 4 of Barry. Which is great because he didn't know who Henry Winkler was, and now he does.
Yeah.
And Barry's great, so I start watching Barry with him. Yeah. I've been watching, but it's just Jujutsu Kaisen for the little one and all that anime stuff, and it's great. I mean,
well, because it's just like anything, right? Because the anime have the different themes, right? So I don't know if your kid's into the paranormal stuff, which is its own whole series of stuff. So
well, what's great is all of those things have their own rules, I mean, but it's funny that how angry he'll get talking to one of his friends about, can this person beat that person in 2 different animes in 2 different worlds, you know what I mean? It's but it's fun. It's like it's their like, could Batman beat
Superman? Yeah,
could Batman beat Captain America? Like who or Iron Man?
Right, like two different DC versus Marvel.
Right, when and there's some great stuff out there, but all right. So is anybody watching anything in sports?
So I said that I went to a baseball game this week for the first time in 7 or 8 years. So that was a novel thing.
And any fun items come home with you?
Yes, I did. Well, so I was willing to go to this baseball game for 2 main reasons. Number one is that there was a Shohei Ohtani bobblehead giveaway, and so I wanted to get that as a gift for my brother when I go to Japan later this year. But then the second reason is because Major League Baseball instituted a clock rule. Because the last time I went to a baseball game, it was excruciatingly painful to watch because the pitchers would keep coming off the rubber, batters would leave the box, and the game moves so slowly. But now that there's a pitch count, the pitch is, 15 seconds, the pitch is on its way.
That clock probably changed baseball infinitesimally for the better.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, but the thing is, though, we used to not need that. That's the thing. It's a modern thing that we needed that, because back in the days, if you watch old highlights from the 70s, that's kind of how they used to play.
People didn't live as long back then.
but also
they were on borrowed time.
Well, no, it just worked both ways. Does the name Nomar Garciaparra mean anything to you, Biff?
Of course. Nomar.
So honestly, he was himself 30 seconds between each pitch. Like every pitch, he stepped out, adjusted both of the gloves, and it's like, and he was a king of full counts. like a Nomar at bat, was like longer than the third grade for me.
Yeah.
He just maximized screen time. That's all.
Yeah.
And what a face. I mean,
gorgeous.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Or Mr. Ham, as he's now known.
Mr. Ham now, as it should be, because, it's kind of like, Ray Ferraro and Cami Granado. It's like, okay. Ray had a nice NHL career. Cami, captain of the U.S. Olympic team. How many, world championships and gold medals? Yeah. So,
and Shohei Ohtani is on pace to probably, maybe, the question mark, join the 50-50 club?
Right. That's a big thing, right? Because he just hit 40-40. So, but yeah. Anyway, though, it was a big deal.
And that's home runs and stolen bases for all you nerds out there.
Yeah.
Do you want to place a bet on whether he gets it or not?
I'm not Pete Rose. I don't.
No, his translator.
Oh, right. His the bet.
Right.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Oh, that feels like eons ago.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what? That's
this season, too.
That's what happens. If something bad happens to you and you make national news, just wait a week.
Yeah.
It'll cycle out.
Yeah.
I just wait for a former president to go to Arlington National Cemetery. Anyways, moving on.
Moving on.
The only sport that I'm watching, and it's crazy because I watch so much football, soccer, that I did not realize that the Premier League is like an 8-9 month season, and that's without playoffs. That they don't have a playoff system. Whoever wins the best record after 38 games is the winner of the Premier League. That's it. But they do. They take a long break for like the FA Cup. But because this is now my world, as soon as the Premier League season ended, it was the Euros and the Copa America. And I'm thinking, because they ended on the same day. The Euros were played in Germany. 8 hours later, the Copa America in Miami. Okay, great. I can take a look. Wait, what? The Premier League starting this week? and being in LA again. One of the great things about being in LA when American football was my thing, you're done. Like the Patriots are done at 1:00. Like, and if you're one of those, I watched the Sunday night football game, I watched the first game, and I watched the last game. You're still 8:30 at night. Like, you can still have a life after that. So I was getting up at like 5 and watching like Man City, or West Ham, because I not a fan, not a supporter yet, but I'm getting there with West Ham, mostly because of another podcast.
Nate the Great.
Nate the Gate, of course, but Dave Lapointe.
Oh yes.
Complaints and observation. That's the team he supports, and so every time I'm watching it, I take a screen grab of me watching it just so he knows. I'm like, dude, I learned this from watching you.
By the way, I think this is the opening weekend of the NFL season. Isn't that right?
Yes. No idea.
I think.
Yes, it is. Right. College football starting up again. Oh, it's all back, baby.
Yeah.
You guys with your sports, all I got is my video game conventions to report on. But
so speaking of sports, one quick thing is, bad week in hockey as one of the hockey's brightest starts, Johnny Gaudreau, known as Johnny Hockey, died in a tragic bike accident. And to just compound to the tragedy, he died alongside his brother. Both of them were in town, back home, or maybe
in
it's not
Jersey.
back home, but in Jersey, to essentially attend their sister's wedding. So it's like the
day before.
horrible tragedy all around.
And I read the details of how like it was a drunk driver. They were riding along like what they call the fog line, which is the shoulder of the road. It's like this 2-lane, 1 lane in either direction. Car. They were riding beside these cars that were kind of moving regular speed, and this fucking drunk asshole tried to pass another car, and then tried to pass him on his left. The car moved into the center lane to pass the bikers, the Gaudreaus, and then the drunk driver like tried to pass this Jeep on the right, not knowing that these guys were riding their bikes, and it makes me sick. It makes me sick.
It's just horrible. Yeah.
And I've said this so many times. It's like I joked about drinking and driving earlier, and
maybe you should stop.
Maybe I should stop, which I did 20 years ago, but doesn't excuse that I've done it past. But now I've said this forever. It's like, dude, with Uber, with Lyft, there's really.
What about that guy that went the Boston guy in the Kenny Chesney concert? He killed a 10-year-old kid drunk driving. He like the local guy tailgating at 1 p.m. got into a stranger's car and didn't even go to the concert. Got so hammered that he just stole this stranger's car. The wife of it was a couple's car. The woman had left her fob in the purse in the front seat of the car. So that's how he was able to turn on the car. And then he drove off and he fucking ran over a 10-year-old kid fatally. And so, drunk drivers, you can go, you can eat the shit out of my ass fresh. Yeah. Because that's like the lowest fucking thing you can do. Now, especially now when it's like, it's always been bad. But now it's just like when it's in your face, in the news all the time, there's no getting around it. We know there's better ways to get around. Just like, what are you fucking doing?
Hey, welcome to the Comedy Podcast.
Anyways, so my video game thing real quick. I went to the Retro World Expo in Hartford, Connecticut with my sons a couple of weeks ago. And, it was fine. I actually spent under $100, not including the tickets. But like I didn't, I just went there. And for me now, it's like a big flea market at this point. Like I didn't really go to sit at any panels. I didn't. And my kids did actually watch, like they did have, the wrestling event over there.
That's great.
So that the Blitzkrieg wrestling, they do it every year over there. So they had a good time. There was some game show stuff going on. I didn't participate in that. I didn't see any of the nerdy panels. I didn't play any pinball machines. I didn't play any stand-up arcades. I just kind of looked around and, and I was there from like 10 to 5. Like we were there all day long. I only spent, maybe less, like I said, less than $100 on like 4 or 5 video games for myself because I've kind of maxed out. And plus, I owe my friend money on the DVDs that I bought from him earlier in this month.
So the old cliche, which is true, because all cliches are based on truth. The whole thing, it's like, prostitutes go into like trade shows because the guys are away from their wives. And you think prostitutes have ever walked in there, looked around, it's like, we're not going to do any business, and just got in the car and drove back to like New Haven, New York. It's like,
oh man,
looked at a bunch of yous and me's and like, we can't compete with a 1981 copy of Lost Luggage for the Atari
2600. I mean, but it also, like I've said before and lamented before, the prices of everything are just outrageous. So screwy. By the way, getting back to New York, I did actually manage to find, my wife was in a going out of business sale of like a garment store or whatever, so fabric store. She was like, buying some stuff there. Nearby was a retro game show, a game store. So I was like, let me see what's going on. I'm sure there are going to be high prices. It's Manhattan. Holy shit. Like games that would normally go for like online, say, I don't know, say a $60 used game. They were charging like $240 or something, like $200 or something.
Yeah, it's really too bad that games are regionalized, right? Because I've seen the retro game prices in Japan and they don't seem to be that horrible.
Right, yeah, you're right. Unless you have an adapter for those older games, you can't play the Japanese games on the American systems. Although with Super Nintendo, little tip, if you break off inside the cartridge slot, there's like these 2 tabs on the American Super Nintendo. If you break those 2 off, you can fit a region-free Japanese Super Famicom cartridge in there and
Yeah.
play Super Famicom games. Not
Yeah,
that
because-
anybody would ever do that, but you
No,
can.
because the reason why I kind of know that and why I bring this up is because eons ago, my mom used to like to play this mahjong game, but then when they replaced the set, like because she got the set in Japan, they got a replacement set in the U.S. She didn't know that this stuff was regionalized, and she brought the new one home. And so I think
Oh yeah.
so obviously so
You're right. She's trying to play a Famicom game in a Nintendo or something, and it's like
whatever. I can't remember which system they have, but
Super
when they replaced a Japanese set with an American set, none of these, I can't, use these things. So
right. But although now that's no longer the case, you can actually for like the Nintendo Switch, it's region free, so you can play a Japanese Switch game on the U.S. system if you read Japanese.
Is that a problem? I don't see a problem.
Right, exactly. No problems detected. So that was my, very lame retro world, but very frugal retro world expo. But I think I've kind of hit like terminal velocity on the stuff that I can buy retro wise. But I did make up for it by buying a lot of junk at the Back to the Future the musical crowd.
Well, thank you. I mean, the economy needs that fresh influence of cash.
Suckers.
Okay. Well, so parenting tip, and again, kudos to Joe's son who is starting college, I think, this week.
Yes.
And kudos to you, Biff, for raising a kid who's at the point where he can chastise you for not being more careful with kitchen appliances. So, what do you gentlemen have to put out into the world in the ways of a parenting tip this week?
You know what? I would say trust your adult children that still live with you to not burn the house down while you're away for 3 days. It's a short trip, and that's what we did.
I got a story for that one, but go ahead.
Oh no, my thing is, we were okay to finally leave the house and guilt free for a couple of days without our kids, and it was nice.
Yeah.
It was nice.
Yeah.
It was like, I remember this. We got a taste.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're back.
Now you know how my dad felt in 1974 as he was pulling out driveway in Wilmington. Not to go to Buffalo. Anyway.
So that leads me to my parental failure story, because way back when my stepson was, around 21 or 22, right? I had a project in Puerto Rico, and so I said, "Hey, why don't you guys come on down to Puerto Rico?" And my stepson, I don't want to hang around with you guys. So he had the house to himself over like a weekend period, and he apparently planned this huge party. Right? It was so huge that the week before my family was going to join me there, one of the guys from Friday Night Hockey, who happened to live up the street at the time, he goes, "Hey, I heard you guys are having a huge party at your house." What? And so we knew that this party was happening. We warned the neighbors this is going to happen, but we were kind of in no position to stop it because the rest of my family was going to be in Puerto Rico. So sure enough, this thing happens. It turns out that apparently about an hour into the party, like it's one of those. One guy looked at another guy's girl in the wrong way, and a fight ensued.
Oh man!
And then police was called. Ooh. And then apparently one of the guys, I don't know which side came back to the house brandishing a gun, looking for the other guy.
Oh shit!
So apparently the party ended in about an hour or an hour and a half, and with so my stepson ditched the house and went hiding in one of his other friend's house until it all blew over.
Oh man, that is a cool movie.
Yeah,
cool movie.
But I'm gonna actually,
his parties are more exciting than my Phoenix barbecue.
But the food isn't as good. The food is not as good.
I'm gonna use that to amend my parenting tip. If you're going to leave your adult children home alone or at home so that you can go on vacation, raise nerds. Because they will not have awesome house parties while you're away. They will just play video games and hopefully only eat a little bit of food and a little bit of water in a dog dish.
I think it's limited to things that you can microwave, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So if you leave only certain microwavable foods, you're safe.
Right.
Well, my parenting tip you already heard. go ahead and jump a fence and go out on a football pitch and kick the ball around. Just make sure you either outrun the cops or outrun your slowest friend.
Challenge authority, I think, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right.
Live a little.
Yeah. Nerd.
Live a little. And it's funny because it's I will say this. He called. It wasn't asking for permission. More, this is going to happen. You might get a phone call. Don't put your phone on airplane mode at your show. I think what the real takeaway is, guys. This was awesome. Again, thank you for indulging my rants, and thank you for indulging the babbling Joe's about to do right now.
And thank you, Biff, for not babbling over my babbling. Do you have anything else to babble on about?
I got nothing.
Okay, good. Again, thank you for everyone listening to this podcast, and also if you happen to have listened to last week's formal edition 30th reunion, you probably like, you know what? I don't know these fucking guys. I don't give a two shits. Hey, how about giving a shit, huh? How about branching out, spreading your wings, trying new things? You know, it's a good time. I have actually. This is so like Norma Desmond of me, but I have listened to that formal edition podcast now voluntarily, not just for editing and listening live when we did it, 4 times. I just liked not so much like, oh, this is a great editing job, I'm going to bask in my glory, but like I liked the pacing of the show. It brought back all these memories, us laughing about these memories, just the stupidity of it all. It was great. You know, it made this old man feel young again. So it was a big self-indulgent theater. Yes, but I think it can also be something for everyone else to enjoy. And, you know, maybe you get play it for your kids. Like, hey, this is what it was like back in the pre-internet days, or when the dawn of the internet, when we didn't have YouTube and TikTok and all that shit. You know, this is what we had to do we were the influencers of the day, is what I was saying. We were the local Lexington, Massachusetts influencers of 1994. But I mean, there's just fun clips, fun banter, different voices. It's not just me, Biff, and Jacques rambling on. Jacques actually kind of takes a back seat. There's a selling point. You don't want to hear a lot of Jacques and more of my raspy, mumbling, stuttering voice. Listen to the formal edition episode. Not a bad recommendation, but I think that's enough. I think Jacques has his hands full editing this podcast together and stitching together 2 or maybe 3 sound files. I forget at this point, but we'll see. Jacques, we'll see. We'll all listen next week for a sideshow to be determined, or maybe we'll take the fucking day. You know what? Why don't we? No, take it off. I mean, you know what? We should be taking this week off because it's Labor Day and nobody's listening to podcasts on Labor Day, right? And isn't that like a federal law? You can't listen to a podcast on Labor Day. I just made that up because, you know, I'm trying to fill airtime now. I don't know why. I mean, we're over time. Are you saying rap? Are you saying stop talking? Is there a rap card you're pointing to on the wall? I can't see that far. I can't see so good. That's a WRAP. Baby, if you've ever wondered why the fuck I won't shut up, it's because I haven't been told to wrap it up, WRAP. I gotta stop talking and singing, 'cause words are hard for me to say. Maybe I should stop, maybe you should turn us off, and maybe I should just wrap it up. Jacques is telling me to wrap it up. WRAP. Don't forget.
Wow. What? That wasn't polite. That was my time. Girl, she walked up to me, she said, man, you know, I just can't see what she doing to your mind, what she doing to your mind, smoking all that. I said smoking don't hurt